everyone. I'm Brandy, an OpenSciEd teacher and professional learning facilitator. Welcome to OpenSciEd Chemistry, Unit 1, Lesson 12. When I first taught this lesson, I was a little bit nervous about the math involved, but it really helps to quantify how much a berm could help this Ilulissat Glacier community and stop the glacier from melting, which can give some hope to our students, especially if you live in a coastal community like I do. Let's take a look at how we got here. So during lesson 11, through the investigation, we calculated that about 80 calories of energy are required to melt 1 gram of ice. In this lesson, we're wondering if we can use all the mathematical models we've developed to slow the flow of energy and protect vulnerable coastal communities. Here's the lesson at a glance. This is a 2-day lesson near the end of the 3rd lesson set, where the students will be reviewing the lessons 8 through 11 to build some key ideas in a gotta have it checklist for the berm model and for a mathematical model. Because we're gearing up for an assessment, it could possibly take you a little bit longer as you help students pull together the pieces to firm up their understanding. The materials preparation for this lesson isn't very extensive. You just need to make some copies and gather chart paper materials, and make sure you locate the berm model key so that you can read it ahead of time, because there's some examples that you might want to use there. There are 2 big sections in this lesson. Let's see what's happening in each. So in the first loop, we'll gather some ideas that we'll summarize from lesson set 3, which is lessons 8 through 11, into a gotta have it checklist that then the students will use to build a mathematical model for the berm's impact. We'll figure out that we can calculate how much energy that is transferred with the equation Q equals C times M times delta T. And then that will allow us to figure out how much ice melt the berm can prevent at the Ilulissat Glacier. We wonder if it would be really able to prevent the glacier melt as much as we hope it would. The second loop is a really big day, and you may actually want to break it up into 2 days. We'll use the mathematical model, and we calculate that about 3.35 times 10 to the 18th calories of energy are being transferred into the Ilulissat Glacier system to cause the amount of ice melt that produces the yearly amount of meltwater that's coming off the Ilulissat Glacier. We figure out that about 5 times 10 to the 18th calories of annual energy flow into the Ilulissat Glacier system and could prevent by the proposed berm solution. In other words, the berm could theoretically stop the Ilulissat Glacier from melting. We also decide to expand our model to account for lots of different human activities and their effects beyond just sea level rise. We want to extend our computational model to help us consider how many impacts humans have had and how that could have an impact on the environment. Ultimately, we figure out that the proposed berm does have the capacity to block more energy than is currently being transferred into the glacier. And now for a few key moments. So a key moment in part 3, the students will use the gotta have it checklist from part 2 to complete the berm model handout. This is an image of the key to help you guide your students. When we say develop a mathematical model with a partner, what we mean is that the students are making use of the models that they've already developed, and they're applying them to specific parts of the berm system. Students should remember that they can calculate how much energy transfers with the equation Q equals C times M times delta T, and that the amount of ice melt can be calculated using Q equals 80M. This step might feel a little tedious, but it's pretty essential scaffold for modeling the calculations that they're going to be doing in part 5, so you don't want to skip it. Now for parts 5 and 6. The students will complete the Calculating the Berm Impact handout. They can do it on their own or with a partner. First, the students will determine how much energy it takes to melt the ice. Then they will determine how much water is flowing into the Ilulissat ice fjord and how much energy that water is bringing in to reach the glacier. Finally, the students will calculate how much energy is transferred out of the warm water, causing the glacier to melt. A key moment in part 7 is that we've decided to expand our model to account for lots of different human activities and their side effects beyond just sea level rise. The students will identify different components by brainstorming a gotta have it checklist that they could use to build a computational model that will answer the question: what are the intended and unintended impacts of human activity on polar ice melt and sea level rise? In the big picture, we're trying to connect matter and energy. And we also want our students to make predictions about the effects to the environment if we do nothing, or if we implement a solution like adding a berm or using microbeads. So, where do we go from here? In the next lesson, we will read about how scientists model climate, and we will use this understanding to develop and test our questions with the computational model. The students will complete the transfer task focused on indoor heating in a changing climate. And now for a few tips and tricks. In parts 5 and 6, the students complete the calculating berm impact. I teach in an inclusive classroom, so I have students with a really wide range of math abilities. So, to reduce some of their anxiety, I chose to intentionally partner the stronger math students with those that struggle. You know your students best, so the partner decision is completely up to you and how you might group them together. My students also struggled with estimating how many blue squares or partial blue squares to include in their estimation for the volume of the bay. The answer key uses an estimation of 16 squares, so that's just what I told my students. It was more important to me that they actually move on to calculating the volume of the bay and the amount of energy that's flowing rather than getting hung up on counting a partial square or not. Like I said before, with so many students who struggle with math, I also provided some just in time support for those few student groups who were struggling with conversion factors or scientific notation. Not everyone needed help, but several groups did. There's actually no new words that we encounter or we co construct a definition for in this lesson. And for poster management, you'll need a few posters from before. So that key ideas chart that you started making in lesson 10 and the mathematical anchor chart. You're also going to be making some charts that you want to save for next lesson. First is the gotta have it checklist and the mathematical consensus model. Make sure you see the berm model key for an example. So to recap, in this lesson, the students developed a mathematical model that helped us further evaluate the berm solution and then used it to calculate the berm's impact on ice melt. We brainstorm ideas for an expanded computational model that includes the Earth system beyond the glacier. Up next in lesson 13 is where the students will read about how scientists carry out and use climate modeling. They'll develop questions that they will ask of their computational model and test them. And then finally, they will complete a transfer task focused on indoor heating in a changing climate. Good luck and have fun.